What happens when a nation that dismisses tanks as unnecessary suddenly has to fight the largest mechanized wars in history? The answer is written in steel, oil, and endless assembly lines. American tanks weren't born from a long tradition of armored warfare. They were forged by pure, unfiltered urgency. This is the story of every American tank ever made, a journey from copied designs and awkward experiments to battlefield-dominating machines. A journey from uncertainty to overwhelming armored power. When the United States entered World War I, it had 0 tanks, not a single one. So, instead of designing from scratch, America did what any newcomer would do. It borrowed the M1917 light tank, basically a copy of the brilliant French Renault FT, became the very first American-produced tank. It arrived too late to see any real action. But it did something crucial. It trained a generation of U.S. crews and engineers, planting the seeds for what was to come. There was also a much grander project, the Mark 8 Liberty tank. This was a massive Anglo-American collaboration, a true land battleship designed to dominate future battlefields. A few were built after the war, and they symbolized incredible ambition. But peacetime came, budgets were slashed, and the dream of an armored legion quickly faded. The interwar years became a long, hesitant pause. During this time, tanks were seen mostly as infantry support, not as independent strike forces. Designs like the tiny T1 Cunningham, the M1 combat car, and the M2 light tank were all about experimentation. They were mobile, they were innovative, but they weren't really built for a real war. It wasn't until the late 1930s, as the world barreled towards conflict, that the US finally rushed to modernize. The M2 medium tank emerged, a clear bridge between peacetime theory and wartime necessity, boasting better armor and a respectable 37mm gun. But it was just the beginning. World War II changed everything. American industry unleashed a tide of steel that the world had never seen. The M3 Stuart light tank became the fast, reliable eyes of the armored divisions, perfect for reconnaissance. It was soon followed by the improved M5 Stuart, with better protection and performance. But early in the war, America had a problem. It needed a medium tank, and it needed it yesterday. The result was one of the strangest tanks ever built, the M3 Lee, or Grant as the British called it. Its main gun was bizarrely mounted in the hull, not the turret. It was awkward, it was a compromise, but it worked. It got American crews into the fight while a better design was being finalized. And that better design was the M for Sherman. The Sherman is arguably the most important American tank ever made. Its genius wasn't its raw power. German tanks often had bigger guns and thicker armor. The Sherman's genius was its balance. It was incredibly reliable, easy to mass produce on an unbelievable scale, and amazingly adaptable. Shermans fought on every single front, from the deserts of North Africa to the jungles of the Pacific, in dozens of different versions. It was the reliable workhorse that won the war. As German armor grew heavier, with the introduction of the Tiger and Panther, America had to respond. The answer was the M26 Pershing. This heavy tank finally gave us tank as a machine that could go toe-to-toe with the German big cats. The Pershing represented a major shift in thinking, moving towards what we now call the main battle tank. But there was another, uniquely American idea happening at the same time. The tank destroyer doctrine called for fast, lightly armored vehicles with huge guns to hunt enemy tanks. Machines like the M10 Wolverine, the incredibly fast M18 Hellcat, and the M36 Jackson were the embodiment of this idea. They traded armor for speed and firepower, while the concept itself faded after the war. The lessons learned from these potent tank hunters would influence future designs for decades. After World War II, the Cold War demanded a new generation of armor. This led to the legendary Patton series. The M46, M47, and M48 progressively improved on the lessons of the war, boosting firepower, armor, and crew survivability. These tanks became the backbone of the US Army and its allies, fighting in Korea and Vietnam. The final evolution of this line, the M60 Patton, armed with a powerful 105mm gun, became a NATO standard. It was one of the most widely exported American tanks in history, and some are still in service today. Of course, America also explored the extremes. Experimental heavy tanks like the T-29, T-30, and T-34 were built to carry battleships-ized guns. These were monsters, designed to smash any fortification or enemy tank. But in an era of faster, more flexible warfare, they were simply too slow and impractical. The Cold War also saw some incredibly bold experiments. The joint US and German MBT-70 project was meant to be a technological revolution, a tank from the future. It was packed with advanced systems, but it was also absurdly complex and expensive, and the project eventually collapsed under its own weight. Its successor, the XM803, also failed, but the lessons learned from these ambitious failures were invaluable. At the same time, the light tank concept was pushed to its limits with the M551 Sheridan. It was airdroppable, incredibly fast, and armed with a radical gun that could fire both conventional rounds and guided missiles. It was innovative, but it was plagued with reliability issues. Then, in the 1980s, came the revolution. The arrival of the M1 Abrams marked the culmination of nearly a century of trial and error. This tank changed the game. It introduced revolutionary composite armor, a powerful and quiet gas turbine engine that gave it unmatched speed, and a suite of electronics that gave its crew incredible situational awareness. Later versions, the M1A1 and M1A2, added an even more powerful 120mm smoothbore gun and full digital battlefield integration. Combat was its ultimate test. In the Gulf War and the Iraq War, the Abrams simply dominated. Its combination of armor, mobility, and firepower was overwhelming. Abrams crews often destroyed entire formations of enemy tanks before the enemy even knew they were there. It proved itself to be one of the greatest tanks ever built. Today, the story continues. American tank development is now balancing the heavy dominance of the Abrams with the need for lighter, more rapidly deployable platforms, like the new M10 Booker armored fighting vehicle. It reflects the changing nature of warfare itself. From borrowed blueprints in World War I to the digital supremacy of the Abrams, every American tank tells the same story: adaptation under pressure. American armor was never really about elegance or tradition. It was about raw industrial scale, relentless problem-solving, and learning faster than the enemy. And that philosophy, forged in the fires of the 20th century, continues to shape the modern battlefield today. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey through armored history, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. See you next time.